thanks everybody for being here today. So it's an interaction, actually, it's an interactive presentation. So the project we are presenting is not about us, it's about actually you, each of you who are sitting here. So the very first question is, anybody here did a fellowship before? Well done. So anybody of you is providing a fellowship or thinking of getting students, motivate them to go, or your residents to go and do a fellowship? Okay, so you appreciate the fellowship and their importance. So that's a great basis to start with. So anybody of you heard about Nelson Mandela?
Yeah, everybody.
Awesome. Anybody agrees with him about the education and how important education is?
Yeah.
So we all agree on that basis. Nelson Mandela has an interesting story. He was the president of South Africa. At that time, I was a teenager, and he was a role model for me. So you always saw him, that one person who decides to take his country from list number 118 in the world, an expenditure on education, and move that country, inspire everybody around him to get that country on the list to be out of the 20 uppermost countries in education, spending on education. And that's what he managed. And then you see a couple of years later, now after he died and not the president anymore, South Africa is coming again lower in education. Less expenditure on education, less classification on the best universities of the world. So sometimes you just need one person who inspires the other and moves the whole thing forward. So when I came across through my experience, I would like to introduce you the CPR, the PCR, which is a professional career roadmap. It's a concept which I developed over the year, which actually starts and enhances each of us. So it takes you from the very first stage as a medical student, then you move forward to be a medical intern, then you do your residency. After the residency, you do a fellowship, and then end of the road, you are a fellowship-trained consultant. What does it really mean? I mean, as a student, you don't understand, you underestimate yourself. So anybody who here teaches the students at their university or hospitals, have somebody to teach you. So it is one of your responsibilities actually to empower this young generation. These are young colleagues. Today they are students, but never underestimate them. 10 years down the road, they will be your colleagues. They will be your consultants. And maybe 20 years later, you will fall down, break your leg, and they will fix you. So that today's students are tomorrow's leaders. So we have to take time and invest in their educations as well. And anybody here decided already on orthopedic or his specialty during his medical school? Or did you decide later during your residency? After residency. That's awesome. So at the very good time where you have space to think about, to engage with different specialties and subspecialty is during your medical school. And you have exposure, you have time, you can interact with people, you can go, there is no liability on you. You can go anywhere, you can go into the operating theater, you can go into the cardiology lab, you can go into radiology. So you are free, you are actually there and people want to teach you and show you how it works. So it is a good opportunity for your students to encourage them to go and think about their future at that early stage, because that's what they need for their future. And don't wait till they finish, because after the 6 years, you have only one more year to go. So it's good to have like 2, 3 subspecialty which you think about during your medical school, and then choose these specialties during your internship, so that you have a little bit of practice in them as well, more insights, talking to the residents to see what's your future going to look like afterwards, and decide based on information if you want to take this onwards and continue your life in that or not. So medical intern is this transition between being a student and thus recipient. 6 years, 4 years, just information coming, and then you decide, okay, why am I learning this? And then it's the very first stage where you say, oh, there is a patient. Oh, he has something. I have to diagnose his problem. And that's where the change your mindset starts, from being recipient to being, okay, I have to interpret all of this information I am getting. And today's challenge is that We have so many information, so much resources. When I went to medical school in Cairo, it was like, okay, you have to memorize this. You have to know this by heart so that to succeed and move on and have good grades. But today, it's not what we teach our students. We teach them how to gather information, how to filter this information, how to use this information in taking decisions and in learning. So when my students come to me, I don't give them 10 points to learn by heart. No, but I give them the resources where to get these 10 points from. I give them the skills, how to filter these 10 points and see what's most important for them. So the world is changing due to digitalization, globalization, all of that increased number of resources. We need to start thinking differently. After medical internship, then you start your residency. So now everybody knows what they want to do. So 3 years residency. Anybody had 3 years residency? Awesome. 4 years residency? 4 years. 5 years? 5 years down. We had in Switzerland 6 years of residency.
6 years.
6 years. So what you do, the system tells you, okay, we don't want you to be only an orthopedic surgeon from day one. We want you to go around, look at least 1 to 2 years where you discover also other specialties, especially general surgery. You have to have 1 year in general surgery. You can do anesthesia, you can do subspecialty, you can do intensive care to broaden your mind. And then you need 4 to 5 years of orthopedic training. So that's where you build your foundation, gather much more information again, which tells you, okay, with this basic information, I will continue working for the next 30 to 40 years. So they are very important, 3 or 4 years, intensive work, hard work, we all suffer, who would work like 50 hours per week during the residency, 60 hours per week, 70 hours or more. Who was married to the hospital during his residency? That's what my boss told me. Like, your family is the hospital. So you are there day and night, taking care of the patient, doing, learning, absorbing as much information as possible. Because this is a very critical. This is when you have a good base, you can build on it. If you have no base, whatever you're going to build is going to fall together. That's a very important, critical stage. And then you move to, okay, now I have done that basic training. It is at least basic training. I mean, with the amount of information, the amount of operations we have, with the amount of diagnostic we have, there's so many specialties and subspecialties today that just being a general surgeon or a general internal medical intern, that general knowledge, it still needs to be refined, re-educated, and then going into one or more subspecialty. And that's where it comes to your fellowships. It's the time to choose your subspecialty and enter the process of becoming an expert, which takes you to another different phase. Now you are like residents, now you see patient care. Now you're gonna do, okay, what specialty I'm gonna do? What is the added value me as a person is gonna give the society, give the patients, give my students, give my residents afterwards? Because once you turn up to be a consultant, there are 3 T's which you have to think about. The first T is to teach the students, as I mentioned before. That's an important point for us because you turn your knowledge and give it downwards to your next generation and teach them how they can learn for the future. And then the second T is actually to treat your patients. So you have patients, you have students, so you can never forget your patients. That's also your job. That's why you did all of that medical school and training and residency. So you have 3 parts. One is the patients, one is the students, and then very important part is the residents. So your residents and your fellows, now it's time to empower them as well. So you transfer the knowledge you learned and gathered through your years of training, through your fellowships, through your traveling, and then try transmitting this to the following generation. And that's what I call the PCR, or Professional Career Roadmap. So I came actually studying in Cairo. Is anybody here working in a country different from the country he did medical school at? You all? Okay, awesome. So by some stages, you get to work in a different country. So you start your training somewhere, you do medical school. It can, by sometimes you do even your training in a different country than you did your medical school. So who would be interested in traveling to exotic country where he has more experts, gain new mentors, travel around, and maybe even get paid for that, to travel around and get more knowledge? I was much fortunate that even during my medical school, after my 4th year of medical school, I was able to go to Berlin and the Charité and spend 1 year with that great group doing basic research. At that time, I was studying in Cairo. I wanted to do basic research, and there was no possibility in my university to get a student to do his thesis. They said, oh, no, you have to finish first and then choose your specialty, and then if you get lucky, you get a position to do your thesis. And I said, okay, but I'm interested in research. So I said, okay, maybe I just have to go abroad and find a place where I go. So after my 3rd year of medical school, I went 1 month on an observership, like same you did, just 1 month to Germany, to Berlin, to the Charité. And then I stayed there 30 days. I got to know the consultants, I got to know the people. I find it a very interesting hospital. It was the specialty which I wanted to do, orthopedics and trauma. I liked the system, and then 6 months after I came back, I asked them if it's a possibility to come and spend 1 year to do my research for my thesis and to learn German. And they said, luckily enough, my consultant said, yeah, I am starting my own lab in August, and that was in January, and they said, yeah, you can come and start and be my doctor thesis student. That was lucky, but it came all because I went 30 days on a visitorship as a student, met the guys. So whatever you do, you never know how it's going to influence you in the future. And after that, I started my residency in Switzerland, also in the same hospital which I did a clerkship in for 2 weeks. So one place takes you to the next stage. And then when you start your residency, it's like 6 years. So I decided between that, there is a possibility of doing a fellowship. So I decided, okay, who would love to go to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, Samba? Have you ever been to the festivals, to the Rio de Janeiro festival? Would you like to go to the Rio de Janeiro festival? Yeah. So I did a fellowship with the AO Foundation, which they financed your stay during 6 weeks, where you at least had accommodation and board. You didn't have to pay for it. You have to pay for your flight, but at least there's a possibility. And then I met Professor Maurizio Cafuri, who was a mentor of mine, and then led a big experience in traumatology in Sao Paulo, with gunshots, with world trauma, with bikes, accidents everywhere. It is like Sao Paulo has 20 million inhabitants. And where Ribeirão Preto, where I worked, it was like 500,000 inhabitants. So I had heaps of trauma. You can really do. My first Elizarov, I did it in my fellowship. My first condylar plate in the femur, valgization osteotomy. All of these interesting things which we don't do now in Switzerland. We all have nails. We don't have DHS. So it's very different. First time in my life to see a Philos plate from the shoulder done for a tibia plateau fracture. But that's what you get. That's what you learn from the guys. Use the materials you have, and they did great work. They had great traumatologists. But you learn from them. You learn from these new mentors. You expand your network. And then after that, I continued my training in Switzerland, and then I decided to go overseas for my subspecialty, which is then shoulder and elbow. So I was very privileged to go to Australia. Anybody would be interesting to see Sydney Opera House?
I was there for 2 years in Australia.
Yeah.
I was there for 1 year in Sydney and
Yeah.
almost 9 months in Townsville, North Queensland.
Yeah.
Where I did three fellowships there over a period of 2 years. And I was there. My public hospital posting in Sydney was Concord,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working at Macquarie University Hospital,
Yeah.
as well as
I went there as well. Did all of the anatomy recession, even for my exams, for my fellowship training exam. I was in my quarry.
Cadaveric lab, and they're doing a lot of research. And I was there at Stratfield Private, Ashfield Private, and a couple of other hospitals as well. And in Townsville, I was at the Mater.
Yeah, the Mater Hospital.
Yeah, so had some good time there.
Did you profit from your fellowship?
Yeah, good learning experience for me.
Yeah. Would you recommend doing a fellowship to your other colleagues?
Yes, I would.
So were you there alone or with your family as well?
For almost 3/4 part of my fellowship, I was alone, and then my wife joined me from India.
Awesome. That's great. I did. I was 1.5 years, half year alone, half year with my family, half year alone. So that's how it is. Yeah, it is the same. It is the process of getting your subspecialty, getting your network, growing your network, and then getting all of that experience, traveling, seeing different kangaroos, jumping koalas, walking around, going to the forest, Great Ocean Road. It's a fantastic country. So that's a combination of mentorship, traveling, learning, experience, subspecialty. That's how you can profit from a fellowship. So who would rather go on a blind date? There are two options. One is you meet somebody for the first time, you just go for a drink. And the other thing is to get committed to a 3-course menu with dinner, lunch, and evening, and drinks without knowing that person. Who would use option 1, just a drink with somebody you never know before? And who will go like for everything with somebody who never heard about before? So you would rather not go into a blind date and rather go first for a drink and see what happens. That's also one of the problems with the fellowship. If you go for 1 or 2 years in a different country overseas, you've never met that mentor before, you don't know what's waiting for you, you have different expectation from the reality, so it can be frustrating as well. So when you look at a fellowship on the internet and you just dial fellowship on Google, can you guess how many results you will get? You see it? Yeah. 170 million results. Just when you write fellowship. How would you find a mentor or a fellowship which suits your needs in this maze? That's the problem. There are heaps of different organizations offering fellowships. There are heaps of different types of fellowships. You can do an observership, you can do a fellowship, you can do hands-on, you can do research, you can do a traveling fellowship in different countries. So different types, different organizations, different countries. So 170 millions, and then you just need one fellowship. You don't need like to have 2,000 fellowships. You just need one. How to find that one which suits you? That's the point. That's the problem. What we try to solve in the platform at myfellowship.com is what you do is you can sort all of these fellowships according to their type. So you can see, okay, I want a clinical fellowship. I don't do only an observership. I want to do a PhD. I want to do a research. And then you can filter them, and that results come up for you. So you don't have to waste your time looking and looking and looking. How did I do my fellowship myself? How did I find it? I went to the Australian Orthopedic Association, and then you have these heaps of PDFs. You cannot filter that functions. Only thing you can do is like which state, so like Queensland, Sydney, Northern Territories, that's the only thing you can filter, or your specialty. But then you get shoulder surgery, 100 fellowships. Okay, which one I should choose? Which one suits me? Then it gets very tough. Then the next stage, after reading all of this, I did an Excel sheet where I put like 26 contacts out of this 117 after filtering them. And then I started contacting each of these 26. Then I made appointments for 13 interviews. And that was like 2 years in advance before my fellowship. And then I had to travel to Australia with my family, get my wife, 2 kids, do a road trip from Sydney till Brisbane, then fly to Melbourne to do interviews in 4 weeks, which cost me also pretty much amount of money. And the end of the day was it because I did want to know which fellowship suits me. Where should I apply to? And then what did I find? Only 4 actually were matching my needs. So out of these 26 where I started before, on the website there were 117. At the end, only 4 suits me, and I applied only to 4. And then I was fortunate enough that I get accepted in 2 of them, and then was able to go and do it. But the process, it took me like 1 year to find these 4 fellowships, to apply to them, and then you wait half a year again to know the results of your application, and then you can start a whole other journey with paperwork and get you there. So it's a long journey, but it's worth it. We have heard here, you had a great experience, great time, you have new people, new network, you learn, your family, even my children were able to speak English. They learned English within 6 months. They never spoke English before. They were only in German schools. So there are lots of benefits, but the way is hard. So what we try to do is to make it much easier for people who are looking for fellowship. They can filter according to type of fellowship, institute, specialty, subspecialty, which country, which city even, is it paid, not paid, duration, language, so that when it's a global network and it has hundreds of fellowships, you can still easily find the one which suits you without having to go through the hassle I had to go and others had to go through it. So today it's, before you came here looking for a hotel, who looked for feedbacks about the hotel they were staying in? Anybody looked at it? You read feedbacks, okay. Before you go, now you are in a different country, you go for looking for a restaurant, you go on TripAdvisor, who looks for feedbacks from TripAdvisor before booking, and you spend like maybe $50 in that evening or $100. Still you spend some time before that looking into feedbacks and deciding where are you going to go. If you go on holiday, if you go on a trip, if you go on visiting sites, you go and see which company is better, which has better feedbacks. So it's a concept which used in everyday activities. Even in the USA now, doctors are being also, they get 5 stars, reviews from patients. So you have even patients who are giving feedbacks about the doctors to allow other patients to take a decision which is an informed decision. So that's the most important part about it, is to get an informed decision before taking, okay, I want to go there for 1 year. And that, unfortunately, doesn't exist for fellowships till now. So what we do is, during my experience in Australia, I found that people were frustrated because their expectation and reality didn't match. We had a WhatsApp group for all fellows, and it has the name of Sydney Slaves. Because people were like, oh, that's not really what I was looking for. As some were very satisfied with their fellowships, and in the same fellowship, you have 4 different fellows. 2 are very satisfied, and 2 are unsatisfied. And it's not because of the fellowship itself, it's because of your expectation you come with. If you don't know what's waiting you and what's expecting you, you can get easily frustrated. You're coming with that idea, okay, I want to do research, I want to do 3 studies in that year. You arrive, it's a private institute, you see heaps of operations, you do a lot, but you don't have time to do research. Then you get frustrated. Or somebody else coming to do a lot of hands-on, a lot of operating, and then find that's a university hospital with a setup, with a big research opportunity where you can do your own studies, you have a biomechanical lab, and others will find that a fantastic opportunity, and others will be like, oh, I wanted hands-on. I wanted to see 10 operations a day. And that's the problem. Where you need a feedback, you need to know somebody who has been there to talk to, and then you can take an informed decision if this suits you or not. That's why we came up with the FS, or the fellowship score, which you can, in 5 different categories, you can easily just write from 1 to 5, just choose one of the answers. Okay, clinical and teaching, hosting location, general about the city, the fellowship, operative experience, research experience. It takes you 2 minutes to fill in the feedback, and then people can have a sensation, okay, in which direction is this fellowship about, which can save them a lot of time and money and research. So also during the way, once you get accepted, it's not the end, it's the start of the journey. That's why I wrote all of my experience. It took me like 7 months to get all of the paperwork done for Australia. And then I put all of that information in one guide, which takes you step by step from the day you get accepted, what documents you need, where to go, where to travel, where to find accommodation, how to find an apartment, what about child's school, what about language course, if you want to take an exam, how you get registered, all of the information somebody needs, where to get your translation, if you have the documents or not in English, all of these problems, which also takes a lot of time and a lot of money, you can have it shortly, easily in a step-by-step guide for people who want to go, and you can apply it to other countries because the principles are the same. You need this, you need that, you need a certified, you need notary public, you need a stamp here, you need that. It doesn't matter in which country you go, the steps are similar, just different forms which you have to fill. And one of the big problems you had is the finances. As he said, it was hard to get the family. For me, it was the same because you get paid, but the wage is minimum, and expenses can be very expensive in Australia or in the USA or Canada, where you have big expenses. So even if you get paid, you have to be mindful and see how you can finance this fellowship as well. So me, myself, I had the Orthopedic Association, which I applied for a financial support during my fellowship. Unfortunately, it get refused. And if you look on the other side, on the industry, they are actually happy to support doctors because they know it's important for them. If you look at the literature and you see like, okay, current practice pattern for fellowship trained arthroplasty, how do they choose their implants? The most important factor for them is actually their fellowship training. That's where you learn, okay, this implants, how it works, how I can use it, and you move this education and knowledge you have and you use that material before. But at the moment, industry cannot support single doctors because of the compliance. So what we do, okay, we have that organization, and that organization can support doctors. So that's how we solve the problem for the industry and trying to finance persons who get accepted in a fellowship and want financial support to get the family or to find accommodation, all of these things. So I've been talking for a while now. So when I started the idea or the project, I started asking friends about me, okay, what do you think? I have this idea for that project. And if you have a new idea which never existed before, it's always like hard to know. So I try to ask them and see what they say.
I'm Alexander Linderman, shoulder surgeon working in Geneva, Switzerland. I heard about the My Fellowship project. It's a great project that will connect all the surgeons and definitely help for organizing fellowship. We need to do this.
So Alex is a very well-known shoulder surgeon here in Switzerland. And then I said, okay, so maybe Swiss people are interested, but what about the United States? Are they also interested?
Good evening. My name is Bassem Hassan. I'm professor of orthopedic surgery from the Mayo Clinic. And I am here to give my opinion about the platform and how important it is to connect the fellowship from all over the world. Usually, at the United States levels, whenever you do your fellowship, you end up visiting again as an alumni later and you visit with your friends and colleagues from the fellowship. The residency the same way. It would be really very interesting and important if we can connect fellows from all around the globe, whether people who want to go into fellowship or people who are out of fellowship, and we have a group of graduating fellows that communicate and connect at different levels from different specialties, and I really think this is important and vital. So I really invite everyone to be part of this. Thank you very much.
So these are like fellowship-trained consultants who has been through the whole journey, through the roadmap I showed you at the beginning of my presentation, and they had that vision and say, oh, that's a great idea. But then I thought, okay, these are experienced guys. What about other fellows, co-fellows? So I asked David O'Brien, he was a co-fellow of mine. He's in Ireland, but he was with me in Sydney. And then I asked him, what do you think about such a project?
Hi, my name is David O'Brien. I'm an Irish shoulder surgeon, and I would encourage you to go to myfellowship.com to find out about the complexities to help you navigate identifying a worthwhile fellowship and also navigating all the processes around it, like finding out what paperwork to fill in, how to sort out
So fellows seem to be also interested. But then I said, okay, we're doing all of this project mainly also to support young generation and people who are young and residency. So what do residents think about? So I asked one resident I knew about in Colombia, in Bogota, what she thinks about the project.
Hello, my name is Natalia Carreño. I am orthopedic resident from Bogota, Colombia. I think as my fellowship platform.com as a great opportunity for us, the young generation residents, to connect to other doctors and also residents from all over the world.
And then I thought, okay, so mainly it seems to be an interesting idea which support people and people are engaging with it. So why don't I go and test that idea and see if it's really helpful for other people, not only people I know. So during the Davos courses last year in December, I went there, I spoke to the people, I had some business cards like this, tell them, I have this idea, I have that project. Would you mind filling a survey for us, which would take you 1 minute, to tell us if you are interested in such a project. And if you look at the visits to our website, when we started in December, when I started that project, till end of June, we have more like about 13,000 visits. We have 8,000 users. They are from 142 countries. So it is an idea which worth spreading. People are very interested. We still have few here countries which don't know about us. There are like 189 countries in the world. Only 142 are joining that platform. So we need to do more work in Africa. And then when we ask these people, the results are from the first 543 surveys. Now we reached 906 surveys. And 2 months ago, we went already online with the platform. So who actually filled that survey? There are like previous fellows, there are potential future fellows, and people offering fellowships. So there are the three main categories. There are also a couple of students, there are also a couple of companies who are interested in the project, but mainly there were the three parts which we are interested in and to connect together. And then we ask them, okay, what are you interested in such a platform? What would you like to have? Because we were developing the platform according to the needs of the doctors and researchers. We didn't develop it and then ask people to join it. We make it the other way around. Ask people first, what do you want? And then we develop it for them. So they said, okay, for most important is the fellowship database, then giving and receiving feedback about that fellowship, and connecting to other fellows and doctors around the world. So that network part is very important. And one of the most difficulties for lots of people, more than about 40%, is financial support. That's how we build the platform according to these needs. So you see the participants were mainly interested in fellowship database. This was 72%. Connecting to other fellows, there was 65%. Feedback, 52%. And financial support, 37.9%. So how does it work? We are in the middle. My fellowship is in the middle. We connect those who did a fellowship before with those who are looking for a fellowship with the fellowship provider, so that they have a platform where they can communicate with each other, where they can find each other, where all of the open positions. So there is no subscription, there is nothing like that. It's more like TripAdvisor, which we know, how you link people, how you give a feedback. It's like LinkedIn, where you contact people and ask them about details. Did you were you there? Should I go? Should I not go? Career advising, finding a mentor which can help you improve your own career. And there is also ResearchGate or Insights or BMed, which are platforms to help cooperation between people around the globe. We're not Uber, we're not Booking.com, we're not Airbnb, so we don't take fees either from fellowship providers or fellowship seekers. So it is an open source, it's like a Wikipedia where everybody can contribute. And that's how it works. So the more people join, the more people put their feedbacks, the more people add the fellowships they visit, the more people can benefit from. It's a win-win-win situation. So we need fellowship providers who has a fellowship to put their fellowship on the platform. They get visibility. If they have unfilled positions, they get positions. If they get a feedback which is unbiased, because if you provide the fellowship and then you ask me about my feedback, it would be hard for me to tell you, oh, that was not so good, that was better. And the problem, each fellowship provider has a different feedback form, if they have one. And what we do is we centralize it, we make it one feedback form, which for every specialty, subspecialty, so that you can compare it to each other, and you can have an informed decision when you are looking for a fellowship, or as a mentor, you are recommending one or not, and you can say easily refer to that program. And for those looking for a fellowship, the future fellows, it will be easy to filter the different fellowships, ask previous fellows, and take an informed decision. And the previous fellows, they have now their chance to mentor new generation, to support them, to teach them, as we spoke at the beginning, the importance of teaching and our role in empowering the new generation. So now it's another break because I've been talking a lot. Did you enjoy the dramatic music? So that's how you can, as you see, that's what you can get from a fellowship. It's that opportunity to mix and match the most three important factors for our career, if you remember the roadmap. That's your network, experience, your subspecialty, and how to boost your career. Today, it's very global. You are here from all of different countries. We all work together, we all support each other. We need to be more connected. Is anybody here on Facebook? Everybody. LinkedIn? Also all of everybody. So what do we get there? Is that connectivity to our friends, family, acquaintances, business partners, and what you get there is a career support. You find these mentors or collaborators or other like-minded fellowship-trained surgeons to ask them about special cases, to go and visit them. Even you can go for 2-3 days, an observership. You don't have to spend the whole month. You can go 2 weeks and visit 3-4 doctors. There's like traveling fellowships in Switzerland, Austria, and Germany for the speaking countries. There's the AGA fellowships where you can go to Asia, where you can go. There's so many different opportunities which you miss. Today, it's either you get connected and you get your connection and grow your network, or you will be left behind. And that's what your decision. So who would we like to be connected to other like-minded fellows and fellowships all around the world? And who would rather be stay at home and do nothing and want to be away from everybody else? Nobody really, right? So through my journey, I had plenty of mentors. People who asked about the fellowship program, what does he think about that? He supported the idea. Starting something from scratch, there was nothing. It didn't exist in December last year. We just built all of that within 6 months. And it's not only me, it's my idea, but then all of these great mentors, which I developed through the years, from Professor Christian Gerber, from Laura Odeje, who was my mentor in my AO trauma fellowship and research, from Greg, my co-fellow, from my boss, who allowed me to reduce my workload to 4 days so that I can implement that 80-20 principle. Anybody is familiar with the 80-20 ratio principle? That's where you can differentiate your time and you can spend 80% in one thing you do, which is your job, which is a mere job, but then spare 20% to do other stuff which can help others and can influence their lives. So through my whole career, the last 20 years, I was helping and learning how to help patients, how to get care of my patients. And then at one stage when I was on my fellowship in Sydney, and then I discovered my colleagues are frustrated, so I thought, okay, maybe I need to help my colleagues as well, so that they can help their patients, and that's how you can increase your impact. If I would treat 10,000 patients through my career, and then I train 10 fellows, and each of these can also treat 10,000 patients, so I treated 100,000 patients. And that's how you leverage your influence. And that's why it's important to teach others. That's the 3 T's. So who's on board? Who's supporting us? The Swiss Association for Medical Doctors and Consultants and Residents is our main sponsor, which allow us to do that project and make it free for everybody around the world and to build that global network. And we have plenty of partners, other platforms like BMed, Egyptian Association for International Medical Students, which also allow students and residents and consultants to travel and do placements for 30 days for 1 month around the world. The Codman Institute of Shoulder Institute, which is in Harvard, that's Professor J.B. Warner, who's also one of my mentors, which I visited last year, and Swiss Middle East Alliance, which do lots of projects in Middle East, supporting hospitals and healthcare. We have OrthoGate, which has a similar concept in Canada for the residence program, so that residents can give feedback and new students can choose with informed decision which residency program to go to. And Ponces is another platform. Knowles is our marketing, and Steiger Legal is our, we have to go with the GDPR, which is the new rules for the European Union for data management and data security, so that everything is in, because we are Swiss-based, so we have to abide to the GDPR rules. So today, who has kids here? Anybody has kids? So that's what we teach our kids. The new alphabet is not A for apple and B for ball. It's A for apple, but the other apple, and B for Bluetooth and Chrome. I mean, my son, he's 10 years old. What did he do in the first week of vacation? He went to the boot camp, 1 week, where he programmed his own games. So he's 10 years old and he's programming his own games. And we are still writing letters and signing and doing all of the paperwork by hand. So the new generation, it is digital. All of the world is here. Microsoft, Netflix, USB, that's a new, whole new era. And then that was 2018. 2019 is going to be different. So you will see M as my fellowship in that era taking place in that world. So who has a smartphone here? Everybody, right? So show me smartphone, smartphone, smartphone. Yeah, that's awesome. So I would like to invite you to dial in myfellowship.com. You have a card on it. You can even scan it. You don't even have to write the website anymore. Yeah, you can go ahead and go into the website. Then you will see that part with login. And then you can start, put your email, and then you will get through the registration process. So you have time. You can go ahead and scan it. Who likes free stuff? Anybody like stuff? Yeah, good guys. Me too. I love free stuff. So everybody who will be registering as well, he will get that free guide, which is on Amazon for $25. He will get it for free today. And he can use it. He can give it to his residents. He can give it to his students. Anybody who is willing to go on a fellowship, which can support him, guide him through that process. And if anybody has troubles, just tell me. Then I have to go to the IT and ask them, what are they doing? Why aren't they program it well so that it comes easy? Yeah, exactly. And then you go accept. and then you go register, and then you're like, you're a doctor or researcher, and then just enter your email, and then you'll get everything. Then gets automatic.
Is it only for orthopedic fellowships?
No, it's for every. It's a global network.
All fellowships?
Yeah.
All specialties?
Yeah.
Not only orthopedics?
No. You can filter all of the different specialties and subspecialties and PhD programs as well. So it is not done for a certain, and it doesn't need you to be registered to any association. You don't have to be a member in any foundation. We decided to make it easy. So like 3 steps for anybody to do a fellowship now. They register to the platform, they filter and choose the platform.
We just have to register, right? No?
Yeah, you just enter your email, and then it gets all of the registration process comes to your register. Yeah, exactly. And then it will be sent directly, automatically to your email.
Okay.
And you can forward the page to any of your residents, students, doctors. For them, we have now about 400 subscribers in the first 2 months, and it's growing from one day to the other into the different countries all around the world.
All specialties, not only orthopedics, all specialties?
No, all specialties.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like a Wikipedia. People can choose whatever specialty, whatever subspecialty. They can add the fellowship by themselves. If it's already there, they can give their feedback about it. And that's how it grows. So one-to-one, a fellowship you did before. You were in Australia, you were in Germany, you were in Heidelberg. Anybody who has worked any pair, now there are like 267 fellowships already on it from people who has done fellowship or have heard about them, that they exist, and they all added the fellowship. So everybody adds his experience or whatever he knows the sources about. That's how it grows.